So good evening, everyone, or whatever time it is where you are when you are viewing this video. This is the Florida Interest Network, and we are doing Advocacy Training 101 tonight. And we have our special guest, which is Melinda Pillar. I guess you're really not a guest, are you, Melinda? You're part of the family, and you are the lobbyist for the Florida Interest Network and longtime lobbyist for the Florida Association for Marriage and Family Therapy when that existed. And you've been advocating for Florida MFTs for how long, would you say?
I would say since about 16 years.
Ooh, 16 years. Okay. So a good long while. And one of the reasons that we're doing this training is that, first of all, there's always something going on legislatively, always something going on. And it's important that every single MFT student, registered intern, practitioner, supervisor is active legislatively, because the legislative stuff affects your day-to-day work. And if you don't know how to have a voice, then stuff happens that you can't control. And that is always going to be a problem. We may tell some stories today, but certainly what we want to talk about is, what are the first steps to becoming an advocate for the profession? What's the things you have to do to be able to do that? So Melinda, I'm going to let you start.
You want to hit that? Got it? Do you see it on
that one?
It says right. Do you see that on the screen? Does everybody else see it? On my screen, it says "got it."
It's on your personal screens.
On your personal screen. Yeah. The "got it," I think, is permission to be here while we record.
For recording, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so hi everybody. I am delighted to be here with you this evening, and I'm going to make this brief and hopefully somewhat informative. For those of you that are new to any kind of advocacy, I want you to consider the conversation this evening and really think about it while we're talking, and think about it after we have this little presentation. For those of you that have experience in advocacy, I'd like you to think about this as we go through it as a way to script yourselves, a way to prepare to talk to those that have never been exposed to advocating for any issue, for their profession, or for any community effort. Because I want to kind of change your mindset in regards to really what it's all about. So I started this with government is everywhere, and I want to explain to you why we need to get marriage and family therapists in all aspects, from student to experienced practitioner involved. The profession has grown, but has all kinds of opportunities to continue to grow, whether that's homegrown from Florida and Florida schools, or whether that's from outside of Florida and folks moving in. But one of the things that people don't understand, and I teach college courses as well, Thomas University, actually in Georgia, business courses. And I have a master's program, and that is also combined with a nursing program. And I told this to Anna Lynn just a little bit ago. A couple summers ago, I was teaching nurses, experienced professional lead nurses in hospitals and in different institutions. This is before COVID, but they really were, they came to my class. It was an online course, but I Zoomed with them a lot because they were overwhelmed and like deer in the headlights about this course called public policy. And they could not imagine how it would have anything to do with them. So I have a really good idea that counselors, mental health professionals, marriage and family therapists really do not get why advocacy, legislative action, government has anything to do with them, because they have you have a completely different mindset and a completely different focus. So here's my question. Can you name one thing that you do in your profession, just one, that you do in your profession, in your professional lives, that is not regulated? Anybody, please, can you name one single thing? This is what I asked the nurses. That's how I started my conversation with them. Anybody?
Well, we can easily talk about the things that are regulated, right? So
Can you name
what school you go to, the school's accreditation is regulated by government. The courses that you take in your master's program is regulated by government. How you can get licensed, the entire licensure process is covered by government. The fact that you have insurance and all of that, that's all regulated. It might not be government regulated, but the insurance companies are then regulated by government, right?
What about if you're sitting in a therapy session?
Absolutely. We're regulated by our professional organization, our ethical codes and laws about how we can practice, who we can see, what we're allowed to do. There are limits to what we can do, right? We cannot hold ourselves out as dietitians or aromatherapists or any of those kinds of things. All what we call ourselves and what we actually do in the session, all regulated by state law and rule. Our documentation, our renewal of license, that is all under the law. Can anybody think of anything that you do during the day, as you go through your day as a clinician, that isn't regulated? The pen I use is probably regulated somewhere by the ink and what it's made of and all that kind of stuff.
That's the next question. Could you tell me, and open your microphones and tell me, I want you to name one thing you do in your normal day-to-day life, take your profession out of it, that is not regulated by some law or some ordinance. Can you think of one thing? I'm getting silence again, and because you're all bright people. Because the truth is, the air we breathe, the water we drink, where we live, the roads we're on, how we get our utilities, how we buy our groceries, how we go take our children or grandchildren to school, what kind of schools they're in, what
the kind of cloth our clothes are made of,
what kind of grass.
The person that cuts your hair.
The bottom line is there is nothing in this country, I cannot speak for the rest of the world, but there is nothing in the United States that is not regulated.
Now, as long as they don't regulate you going to the bathroom, I guess.
Let me say this. Going to the bathroom means
the amount of water.
You have to have water. Your plumber has to be licensed. And there are codes that you are supposed to be building or having your home follow. So I hate to tell you, but the way that you use the bathroom is even regulated. Not, you close the door. I guess that's a private thing, but that's a facility in your home, hopefully in your home, that is regulated.
What about the choices that we make?
Choices that you make in what?
In other words, we can choose to do this or that activity with our family, with a colleague. The choices that we make, the individual personal choices that we make. I don't know, I guess what you're breaking it down to is even those individual choices are going to involve something that is regulated, and that could be true, but I'm saying nobody is governing or regulating what I choose to do on any particular day.
There are boundaries. If you decide that your family activity is to go rob a bank, that's going to be regulated.
Well, right.
If you go to Disney World, or if you go to a state park, or if you go to the grocery store, if you take a walk, the sidewalk you walk on has regulations about how it's made and what the cement is and all of that. So your decisions, the decision to do something may not be specifically regulated, but the things that are involved in doing it, all of that is, up to the point of you breaking the law, right? And then that's regulated. So whether I have eggs and bacon or not, that's not regulated. But the farmer who raises the pigs and raises the chickens, all of that is regulated. Yeah.
Well, you want to hit the next?
I do.
Slide?
I do.
I guess we made our point. And the point is, if you're talking with someone who has never been involved in advocacy, or if you're someone that has never been involved with advocacy and you don't think government has a hand in how you live your life or how you conduct yourself in your profession, this is a way to illustrate that we are all regulated in some way or fashion. Whether we like it or not, it is what it is. And that's on a local level, on a state level, and on a national level. So the next question is, are you registered to vote? Well, that's a privilege in the United States. And as professionals, I would hope, and I've been advocating for this for 30 years plus, is that everyone is registered to vote. If you think you're too busy or you think your vote doesn't matter, I think that we could argue that point till the cows come home. We're not too busy to voice our opinion. We're not too busy to enjoy the privilege of being able to cast that vote. So one vote does make a difference. Let me tell you a story. This is decades ago and presidential elections ago, but in the Kennedy versus Nixon election, Kennedy was elected by one vote per precinct, one more vote per precinct across the country. And that's how he became president. This is, I think, and I'm not going to certainly get into the politics of what's gone on in the last 5, 6, 7 years, but certainly people have become much more in tune to their vote counting. So I would encourage all of you, if you're not registered, by all means, you do it. You don't have to register for a party. You can certainly be independent and pick and choose who you wish, when you wish, and how you wish. But do register to vote and encourage everyone to practice the privilege that we are given here in the United States. So if you didn't work to sustain your profession, help it grow. Or if you don't work to sustain your profession, help it grow and build the body of MFTs in Florida. Who do you think should do that? Any thoughts on that? Who should do that? It's like the school teachers, and I represented school teachers in Florida for many, many, many years, because they do good things with children, because they wear the white hats. They think that the legislature is supposed to give them money. They think that the local school board is supposed to give them a good contract. Well, that's just not how it works. You have to work for that, and you have to keep advocating for your profession. So just like the school teachers who have to educate children and educate politicians, which is much harder than educating children, by the way, they have to advocate, and marriage and family therapists have to be out there speaking with one voice. They have to get engaged. They have to get involved, because the profession, if it doesn't have a voice and it doesn't make noise and it doesn't grab attention, will fade away. And that's how it works in survival in this world. So I would ask you to take out your voter registration card. Don't have to do it now, but if you have it, take out that voter registration card and look at the information. Look at the back of the information. Look at who what your congressional district you're in. Look at what legislative district you're in. And if you don't know what that means, I'm going to show you here in just a second. If you're not registered, register. call your supervisor elections. They're very nice people. They're very apolitical, and they're very helpful. And I don't care what county you're in. There are 67 counties, 67 supervisors of election. They're all elected officials. So they're all trying to do the best they can, whether it's a rural or urban district or county. So by all means, give them a call, and they will guide you on registration. So have the next slide, Annalyn. This is a website, and I sent that link to Annalyn, and she can send it out. But I wanted to walk you through a source that's incredibly valuable to all of us in Florida. It's called Online Sunshine. This website, and Annalyn, if you could just pull it up, you can find out everything you ever wanted to know about your state government on this website. You can look at your statute. You can look at any agency, or the link will take you to any agency in the state. You can look at your state senators. If you click on the Senate on the top there, and then on the blue, no, right on the blue.
Yep.
That's fine.
It's loading.
Underneath that, yeah, you can do it underneath the logo or over there. Then here's the president of the Senate, and you can go across each one of those tabs, and you can find bills, and you can find calendars, and you can find all more information. Go lower, just go. No, I'm sorry. Right, go up. See where it says committees. Get the list of committees, senators. Click on senators just for a second, and then you can see. And then here's the whole list of your senators. Here's where they're from. Here's their party, their district. And then if you click on one of the legislators, it will give you their background. It will give you more information than you really want to know. And you can do that with every one of your House members and every one of your senators. Great illustration. Go back over to the House side. Go back to the, just arrow back. No, just arrow back out of Senate, and we'll go over to the House for a moment. And back. And back. And one more. Okay, go over to the House. And there's your Speaker of the House. And you can, this is set up differently than the Senate. I always like the Senate side. I think it's more user-friendly. But you can find out whatever you want. You can see on the top. You can see this House schedules. You can see who the leadership is. You can look up your representatives. Go ahead and hit on representatives, Annalyn. And just scroll down. And there you go. You can keep going, and you can do the same thing with them. You can click on one and get all the information you need. Now that will give you information, including their addresses in the district. Some of them have one office, most of them have a couple. It'll give you the names of their staff. It will give you email addresses and how to reach them. It will give you telephone numbers, both locally and in Tallahassee. And so everything is right there at your disposal. Okay. You want to go back to the PowerPoint? Is there anything you'd like to see? Anybody, would you like to see the link if you go back? Well, okay. Let's do the next. If you go back on there to the.
Back to the home?
Yeah.
Oop.
Okay.
I went back too far. All right.
Okay, if you look along that blue list, you can see that a citator, which is right under the House, citator is a document that has all the bills that have been passed in all the years, and you can find anything and everything under the sun. Right underneath, right below that are the statutes and the Constitution. You can look up how you are regulated, which statutes are you're covered by 491. You can find that. And the executive branch, which are the governor and the cabinet, and then lobbyists. And there's a whole list of lobbyists and who they represent and what they represent, different committees. And at the bottom, there's links, and you could go into, I don't know if that's going to probably take you into all your agencies. There you go, your courts, Division of Elections, Public Service Commission. There are links that will take you to all the agencies on there. Here's the, well, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but you get the drift. You've got the idea. Get on Online Sunshine, play around with it a little bit. You'd be amazed at what kind of information is at your fingertips. Okay, next slide. So, any questions, any issue or concern that you would like to discuss, by all means, this is a great time to do it. And I don't mean a particular bill, but one of the things that I have found over the years is that people think that the legislature controls a lot of issues, a lot of happenings and activities that they really don't. It might be the federal government that controls it, or it might be a local government that controls it. So are there any concerns that you might have in your community or with your profession right now that we could talk about? And you'd be surprised that folks really don't know what level of government is involved. And in most cases, many cases, all three levels of government are involved. So questions about that?
I have
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
So I had a question, maybe it's kind of a legislative question.
Go ahead.
So I'm just kind of wondering, why is it taking so long for the LMHCs and LMFTs to be able to have the ability to work with Medicare patients? I know that this has been like an ongoing problem for years and years, and it still hasn't happened. Like, what is the status of that?
Well, Medicare is federal, and state is involved in it, but it really is a federal program. And the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapists, that is a very important issue that they work on all the time. And I don't know, Annalyn, you may know more about that issue than I do because it is federal. Oh, Meredith, you wanted to say something about it? Please do.
I recently went to an AAMFT workshop that talked about MFTs and Medicare and advocating for that. It was an hour long. I'm pretty sure that it was recorded and should be accessible to us. But one of the things they talked about was that legislators have their own personal agendas. Things have popped up over the last several years, whether it's the pandemic or fighting about budgets or whatever else we're fighting about. And that has taken away from some of the efforts that have been made over time to get that. The push now is to help legislators understand why we should be included in that, and the effect of not doing so, since our population is aging and social workers can't do it all. We should have access. And I'm happy to share more of that with you about it, but it's an important question and has been going on as long as I think I've been part of AAMFT.
Right. And a federal level, Linda. Although the state, the state definitely gets the benefit if they can work well with the feds. And that's a whole other ballgame, is that relationship building.
Mm-hmm. But if and when, I'll say when MFTs can bill to Medicare, that will be at a change in the federal statutes, not the state statutes.
Good question. Another question? Jessica, did you have one? I saw you take your mic off.
Yes, I did have a question.
Sure.
So the reason that I got involved in all of this was I'm a recent alumni from a marriage and family therapy program. And a few months before I graduated, the regulations changed for licensed marriage and family therapists, where we had to be from COA MFTE or KCREP accredited schools instead of regionally accredited schools. And they made this rules change for LMHCs as well, but they gave them a 5-year grace period.
Right.
Because obviously those in my position and at 7 other schools across the state wouldn't have known about this rules change before graduating. So that's been something that I've been trying to organize students about, or recent grads like myself about, and I've had to get registered as a mental health counseling intern and potentially get licensed as that, even though I want to be a licensed marriage and family therapist instead. And I would have to take 4 more classes and just a lot of things. So I was just wondering any of your advice or insight as to what we can do about this issue.
Yes.
Because, you know, we have to start studying for our exam soon.
Sure.
And I'm on hold studying until I know what exam I'm studying for.
Well, the issue you brought up, we have been very engaged in that issue. We don't represent any schools in particular, but we've been engaged in meetings, a number of meetings with the schools that did come under that new law, or were excluded from that new law, I should say. And there's an effort going on, and will continue to go on, to rectify the situation for marriage and family therapists. In the meantime, the regulatory board is well aware that there are schools that were disenfranchised. They have been trying their best under the guidelines that they have and the parameters they have as rule makers to work with students on an individual basis, so that yes, you are interning, not exactly where you want to intern, but they encourage folks like yourself to intern where there are marriage and family therapists, say some kind of facility where you've got more than just mental health counselors. But I believe, and Annalyn, you know this better than I do, I believe that once we can get this remedied, and this is a state issue, this is not a federal or local issue, it's a state level issue, that they will take that internship time and credit you for your marriage and family therapy. The other piece that you need to know, Jessica, is that didn't come out, there were 2 bills that were filed, and that came out of education. We, as the lobbyist representing marriage and family therapists, I don't follow education committee. And nobody else did, evidently. The schools that were affected were caught off guard. And they did not, it surprised everyone. So I don't know, no one really knows, but the 2 bills that were filed came out of education, and the schools that did have lobbyists representing higher ed, University of South Florida, I believe, is one of them. Maybe University of Central Florida, Florida State University is another one. They have a lot of lobbyists, pay a lot of money for representation, and none of them knew that was coming. So hang in there, keep doing what you're doing, and know that things will change. That's the one thing that I can tell you, guarantee you, in the Florida legislature, there will always be change. It will never stay the same. And a perfect example of that is that we are now heading in the new year, 22. It's an election year. So many of the House of Representatives will be well, they're all up for re-election because they have 2-year stints, but some of the senators will be, they have 4-year, and there'll be a turnover. So building relationships in 22 is a whole new ball game. And so have faith, it will change. And you're doing what you're supposed to be doing right now. I hope that helped a little bit.
Thank you, Melinda. Can I ask a quick follow-up question?
Of course.
So one question I had was, I was aware, it is nice to hear you say that you feel confident that things will change. But I guess one question that I and other students have is like when, and if anyone had any insight about that, because I'm pretty close to at the end of next year getting all of my hours, and then I'll just be kind of sitting and waiting. And eventually I'm going to have to take an exam or take 4 additional classes that I would have to pay for.
Right.
So it's like I keep kicking the can down the road to study for my exam, but I can't do that for that much longer. If things change in 2 years, it will be too late for people like me.
Yeah.
Well, so let me chime in on this, Melinda. So let's remember that this kind of thing where the law changes and so obviously somebody knew because a bill was filed, but the people that actually were affected, the schools, were not aware of it, or I'm sure they would have fought it. I'm sure they would have. The lobbyists would have said, this isn't fair. We've got to change this, or at minimum, there would not be this glitch of not having the 5-year grace period for people to continue to move towards the MFT license while their schools got accreditation. But the fact is that 5 years is going to end, and everyone will have to graduate from an accredited school unless we change that aspect, which is something else that we're looking at. For instance, we have people who are graduating from programs in other states. They want to move to Florida, but they too have to register as mental health counselors. But when those 5 years is up, they won't be able to register as anything. So we're not only advocating for the right now students who graduated after July of 2020, we are also looking 10, 20 years down the road, understanding that people will want to come to our state and become licensed, but won't be able to if they come in as a graduate and not licensed. So there's lots of workarounds. I know that people go and get licensed in another state. They go get licensed in Georgia. They go get licensed in North Carolina, New York, whatever. They go licensed in another state. They get their LMFT and then they bring it into Florida. That's another way to go around it. So even though we're talking here about advocating in Florida, what works here also is happening in all the other states. So this kind of change is why we want you to be an advocate, be a registered voter, reach out to your legislators, because if it's not the thing about licensure, it's going to be the thing about what happened in Texas, is that they tried to take away MFT's ability to diagnose, which meant that they would not be able to bill to insurance, period, at all, and undercut their entire profession. Right. So it's this issue now. It's the COAMFT and accreditation issue now. But a couple of years from now, it's going to be another kind of issue. And so the idea here is we have to think in terms of the long game, not just the handful of students that aren't going to be able to register as marriage and family therapists and might actually have to become licensed as mental health counselors in their own individual lives. But as we look across the profession, we have to look at the long game, the long investment in terms of our long agenda to keep our profession alive and making sure that we have parity with all the other licenses within 491. Meredith.
Jessica, I'd like to say one other thing to you and encourage you. You've come to the right place to be part of the Florida Interest Network. We have, as Annalyn and Melinda will tell you, an excellent relationship with the executive director of the 491 board. We have had several meetings with her about this concern. We have had meetings with the schools that were involved. And I feel like we're on top of that as much as we can be, but we are small. And to have an impact, we need an army of advocates like yourself who will join us, get serious about collaboration, and focus and target our efforts on things that take care of us and protect our licenses.
Well, and I'm trying to get more involved. Like, if anyone could reach out to me after this is over, like, I want to be in those conversations, not to like hijack this conversation or anything, because I have been working with the students from my school and then with the students from Carlos, or one of the students from Carlos Albizu, and trying to reach out to local representatives. And I've been in contact with Dr. Scully, but I do still feel kind of in the dark a little bit, like in terms of connecting with the bigger picture and just anything I can do, because I understand that, you know, the profession will always need to be defended. But I also have to think in the short term, do I have to budget $15,000 extra to take 4 more classes or not? You know, that's like my short term, like my personal life of how this is affecting me right now. So I'm really just, and I feel like I'm under a time crunch in terms of like really wanting to get this done.
Yeah,
and do
yeah.
everything I can.
Well, I think, Jessica, another thing I want you to understand is, again, at what level are we advocating? So this is not a national level. It is a state statute. That is true. It's a state statute that was changed. But the people that is actually targeted are the school programs who chose up to that point to not be accredited. They had the accrediting possibility. KCREP and COAMFTE have been around for years and years and years. We have the vast majority of the schools in the state are accredited. And so when the bill went through, unbeknownst to us, you're right, there were 7 schools that were affected, but there were a ton of others that were not, that were already accredited. And so the idea was, let's bring everybody up to accreditation standard. So while you and your colleagues are personally affected, the people who should have been watching this is the schools. And understanding that they were going to be asked to meet the certain standards that other programs are meeting, the accreditation standards. And the accreditation standards are accessed by the state. The state says, we're going to use this as our standard, but the actual standards is yet another body. Those are the accrediting bodies, COAMFTE itself, KCREP, who are a part of the national professional organizations. So that's not government, but government uses those organizations to set standards for professionals that they regulate. So the school was the one that had their thumb on what's going on and didn't. Now we here at FIN, none of us represent any of the schools. Many of us teach for schools, but that is not our representation. But we're here to work on behalf of the profession, which is our new students and our new professionals. You know, we want everybody to be able to do the work that they trained to do. But you know, understanding who dropped the ball is something I want you to keep in mind. And when you think about needing to take extra classes, I would suggest you go back to the school that was supposed to be on top of that. That's what I would suggest. And I'd be happy to help you think through that if you would like. But like I said, there's lots of ways to get licensed. Even if you spend the money and become a licensed mental health counselor, you can still become a licensed marriage and family therapist. When the law changes, you can do it. And once you've held your mental health counseling license a certain number of years, then you can take the exam without having to be from a COAMFTE or a KCREP accredited program. So there are many ways to get licensed in our state as a marriage and family therapist. Is it lousy for you as an individual having to put out more money? Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it really is. But you know, we are doing what we can to change the law. But even if we change the law and got the 5 years, that's only 5 years. That doesn't solve what happens after 5 years, which is yet another legislative agenda that we need to work on. And then there's the one that's close to Melinda's heart, is why we're even called registered interns, because in other states, once you pass the licensing exam, you're a licensed marriage and family therapy affiliate or associate. You actually have a license. And that looks very different to insurance companies and employers and legislators, right? That's another big lift that we're doing. So go ahead, Melinda. Next slide.
Because I want, and Jessica, we'll, you know, we can talk about particular issues later. This presentation was about just getting started, but hang in there with us and we'll hang in there with you as well. I wanted you all to know that we have a plan of action and we have timelines set. And this is the first step in the plan, and we're not reinventing the wheel. We are starting what we need to do, starting on what we need to do to achieve success in issues like Jessica's and so many others. But our action plan is to schedule monthly meetings, and we're having one right now. This is the beginning, to create this framework for advocacy. And that's something we absolutely must have, is a framework for the work that we have to do. Brainstorming ideas, sharing information, identifying issues of interest and concerns, those are all on the agenda, not for tonight, but all on the agenda when we get our key players, when we get our advocates. I'm so sorry if you can hear my dogs barking in the background because I've got the doors closed. Our key advocates that we can really have as our lieutenants to work the state, and specifically in targeted areas. So we want to identify new advocacy leaders. And we want them to be in designated, starting out in designated areas of the state. I've listed some because they're the most heavily populated urban areas, which means we have more legislators in these particular areas. Florida, Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, Tampa Bay area, Orlando. Doesn't mean that we want to leave anybody out. If you're in Jacksonville, or if you are in the Panhandle, or if you're in Central Florida in some of the more rural, or over there in on the East Coast, Lake Okeechobee area, all of those areas are very important to us. I just listed these as the first targets, if you will, for us to get MFTs, students, newly graduated, experienced practitioners involved. We need the gamut to get involved. And if you could hit that next, and it's the last slide. So here's what we're asking tonight: to recruit new members, to tell your peers about the advocacy efforts. And we could spend 2 nights, and we'd have to open bottles of wine to do this, but we could easily spend 2 nights to cover just a few of the major issues that marriage and family therapists face. Utilize Facebook, utilize other social media, emails, phone calls, text messaging. We're still in COVID. Florida is still a hot spot in the country. So we have to be cautious with the way that we take care of ourselves, and we have to be cautious in how we communicate. That electronic is there, social media is there, Zoom is available, and we're all living on it these days and have for a long time. So create a contact plan, and you can have all of this. Create a contact plan. If you just found 2 or 3 other professionals or students, found 2 or 3 others that would be willing to work with us and to work with you, that would be huge. begin to identify those people and identify what their interests are. We're interested in knowing what they care about. Just like Linda asked questions tonight, and Jessica has a burning issue that she's concerned about. We're interested in what interests you. But that's what we need to do, is get together and start moving forward together. I am one person in Tallahassee. And if I have said this once, I've said it so many times, I cannot do it alone. I am not so presumptuous to think that I'm so smart and so swift that I can do it all alone. I need help. And the grassroots effort, the professionals, this is your profession. The professionals need to be there on the front lines with me in their communities, working together. And I know that we can accomplish whatever we set our minds to. And I just want to say one other thing, and then I'm finished with this. So many young professionals consider the Baker Act standard practice for marriage and family therapists. But I can tell you, and I will take credit, I can tell you as a newly hired lobbyist for the Florida Association for Marriage and Family Therapy, I worked for 2, maybe 3 years. I think it was just 2. I worked for 2 years straight with a whole group of professionals across the state. And that's when we passed the Baker Act for marriage and family therapists. So we can do big things. We can do important things. They had been trying to get that passed for 20 years. Anyway, that's what I was told. But we accomplished it in just a couple. But that's because we had a united front. You have a representative in Tallahassee, that's me. I've got the experience. I'm not the content expert, though you all are. And that's why I have to count on you to be out there. And I also am not going to go all over the state of Florida. You're there, your homes, your communities, and your profession. And so that's the end of my little presentation for this evening. I hope I didn't bore you too much, but we certainly need you to be involved.
So Melinda, I appreciate that, and I would like to use the Baker Act story as a way to understand how this works from the individual to the changed law, right? So a group of people in FAMFT decided we're going to tackle the Baker Act. We're going to get MFTs included in the Baker Act. A small group of people decided that. Each of those people then reached out across the state to groups of practitioners, students, collected names, so that when the group got together to look at the bills, where can we add ourselves in the bills? This is Melinda's area of expertise. Where can we attach on? What is the Department of Health doing, right? If this is, where is the language coming from in terms of the bills that get filed? And then once a bill is filed, once the language we want to be in the law is in a bill, then the next thing to do basically is to market it. And that means we have to market it to the legislators. So then we need people in every county who then contacts their legislators and says, look, bill number 123 has important language about marriage and family therapists providing services to your constituents. And we need the local people. See, your legislator will listen to you because you vote for them. So it's not enough. I can't go to the people in Jacksonville because I don't vote for them. I have to go to the people who are in Broward. And then I have to get all the other people in Broward, all the students in Broward, to also then talk to the legislators. When Melinda says this bill is going up for a vote, we need phone calls, emails. We need to bombard them with support. Then each of us has to say, I can call my 10 people. And then each of those 10 people call their 10 people, so that all of the emails and the phone calls get flooding in to the legislators. Because that's what the legislators listen to, is their constituents saying, this is important, please vote for this. Melinda is the one that tells us the timing, but she listens to us as to what are the issues that she is to go after. And then she helps us to understand how that happens. Now, the current issue that Jessica is worried about is going into a Department of Health bill. Is that not right, Melinda? It's in the Department of Health bill. But there's other bills. There's other bills flying around out there that have other kinds of issues that we're looking at. And do we like this language? Do we want to be a part of that? Do we think this is a good place to put our efforts? But it really does start with us who are here contacting our 10 to 20 people, and each of them contacting their 10 or 20 people, so that when Melinda says go, that 200 calls get made in the space of 12 hours, because that's what they'll listen to. That's what we mean by being organized, by having an army that says something. Now, if you want to get really fancy, and that's maybe what later trainings will be, you actually go to offices and talk to the people. And that's very intimidating until you do it the first time. And then you recognize that these legislators want to hear from you. They want to hear what you have to say about their constituents. Remember, we provide a service to the legislators' constituents. So they want good things for the people that are going to vote for them. We're good things. We provide a service that they want for the people who vote for them. So that's why you're important. That's why your voice is important. And that's why you need to organize to get all the other voices, because the legislators are not interested in Melinda's voice or Melinda and my voice. Just the two of us. We're nothing. But 200 people, that's going to make an impact. And let me tell you, mental health and social worker have way more people, but that doesn't mean they're better organized. A small group, well organized, can do more work than the big ones that aren't organized. Melinda, am I lying here?
Well, we've done it over and over again. And there's been transition with organizations, with the national, et cetera, which is why we now have an interest group. So we have to rebuild. And that's what we're in the process of doing, is rebuilding. And just to finish this, and I want Andrea to speak. I wrote a script, short little script for everyone to use so that everyone is saying the same thing in regards to recruiting some others. And Andrea, you're going to send that out, I believe. And
so I have already added the script that can be used as a template, obviously, when we get our new dates in for next month. So that's not in there. It's in the chat box, just so everyone can look at it and ask any questions that they might want to ask now while we're here. And then I'm going to send out an email, also adding that this will soon be on YouTube at the end of tonight.
Okay. It's in chat?
Yes, ma'am.
Annalyn,
can everyone see it?
Yeah. So I see it here. What she says is, dear person, my name is Annalyn Schooley. I am an MFT and faculty member. That's so you identify who you are. The purpose of this email or call is to invite you to the Florida Interest Group Advocacy meeting. And the new date, of course, is November. No, Friday, November the 5th. The 5th. Okay. Our goal is to build and collaborate a body of fellow MFTs to advocate for our profession and address mental health issues important to our clients and communities. We each have a voice. Together, we can strengthen our voice and our professional future. And then there's the link that I'll make sure you guys get. And so you can invite all of your colleagues, professionals, students, new registered, send out the email to get them to come to our next event, because we will be talking about our actual agenda. And Melinda, at that point, you'll have a little more information about timelines for our recording. Is that not true?
What timelines
for when things are going to happen, when committees are meeting, all of those kinds of good things.
I can easily do that. I just want you all to know that we're in the process of doing one thing and one thing only. And if we have this, we can accomplish whatever we need to, and that's building relationships. And the opportunity is here. It's 2022 coming up. New people will be coming into the legislature, newly elected folks. this is an opportunity for us to build relationships. And Annalyn, and I'm not trying to correct her, I want to add on to what she said about 200 voices, which would be a godsend for us. But if we had key people that really made the effort to build a relationship with their legislators locally, and that they became a source for mental health for their legislators, which these folks need. They need resources, they need experts to help them, to guide them when other bills come up. If you could build those relationships, that's gold, because they will contact you before they would vote. They would contact me before they will vote, because we've got those relationships. And that's the best of the best. And it can be done. It's being done all the time. We don't have money, we don't have the money to put into campaigns to like, you can't buy much anymore in the legislature. You can't buy them, but we're not a huge entity with thousands and thousands of people. But what she did say correctly is that even if you're small, you can have a tremendous impact if you do the work. And that's what we're asking y'all to do, is to get involved, help us get to that point where we really have a collaborative voice.
So what Melinda's talking about in terms of building relationships and things like that, that's what we'll talk about more specifically, what that looks like in our next training. So we hope to see you all at that next training. If you can't come, we will be recording it so that it's available on YouTube for you to get that information. And stay tuned to the Florida Interest Network Facebook page and website as we continue to have ongoing meetings so that you can find out what's next, what are the next steps, and we will continue to reach out to all of you and the entire membership of FIN. If you're not a member of FIN, become one, please. If that's not something you're willing to do, you can still be a member or a subscriber of the Florida Interest Network Facebook page. That we don't care that you're a FIN member per se, to go look at the Facebook page where trainings and things like that are being posted. And then that's also where call to actions will be posted, as well as phone call, phone trees of contacting people. So we hope to see you at the next one, or if you're watching this on YouTube, to click on the next training in YouTube. And thank you all for being here tonight.
Great to meet everybody. Take care, stay safe.